Well, hello again, this time to my second YouTube video where I plan on discussing a little bit shipping situations. So in my first video, I mentioned the four considerations or four key considerations behind my buying for resale decisions, and they were identification, cost, condition, and desirability. But I never talked about shipping. Well, shipping is a huge factor in my buying decisions. However, one of the biggest reasons why I left it out is because, number one, shipping is a very complex matter in and of itself, and there is no way I could have covered any of it in the first video, and the chances are slim that I may be able to cover it as much as I would like in this video as well. However, I will try. The other reasons why I did not include this topic into the first video has to do with actually a number of what I refer to as shipping quirks. And without further ado, let's jump into those. Shipping quirk number one. Shipping costs are ever-changing and never for the better. Unfortunately, with USPS more recently, these increases actually happened as often as twice per year. Granted, not in the same areas, but they were shipping cost increases nonetheless. Every time that happened, the private shipping companies such as UPS and FedEx almost always followed suit. So that resulted into a snowballing effect. Parentheses, when I talk about boxes, obviously I'm thinking about hard goods. So a couple of the big impactful changes were when USPS decided to substantially increase the cost of everything that was longer than 24 inches and everything that was bigger than 36-inch combined lengths. So 12, let's think about 12 by 12 by 12 length, width, and height. All those three added together is 36. So everything over that would now cost substantially more. So these changes literally happened when they happened. You would find yourself as a reseller overnight with a bit of a challenge on your hands when it comes to existing inventory that may have made perfect sense to purchase up to that point, right? So now you have to deal with that in a way that would not kill the sale, that would still get you a buyer, but also minimize the cost to you as a reseller. So there is this aspect of shipping that is very, very impactful to all of us. Now, to end this particular one on a positive note, one change that USPS made in a rare display of common sense is the consolidation of two of their cheaper services, which were USPS First Class and USPS Parcel Select, into one, which is now called USPS Ground Advantage as of July 9th, 2023. So there was a lot of good that came with that. For one, everything under this new shipping option would now be covered by insurance up to $100, which is great. And the USPS finally became competitive again with private companies like UPS and FedEx. Now, some of the things were better as a result of this change, but also what I realized is that with this change, UPS also made further changes in the way they are calculating the shipping costs by relying a lot more heavily on the cubic size dimensions. So right now, the smallest variation, all other things being equal, the smallest variation into the dimensions of a box could trigger a steep price decrease or a steep price increase. So it all depends on what end of that you may find yourself when you consider this to be playing in your favor. So I noticed that. I'm not sure if any other resellers noticed that, but I noticed that for sure. And it has been impacting definitely the way I source. And the way I source now becomes a lot more restrictive because of these constant changes and because of these latest changes in USPS and in shipping costs overall. Shipping quirk number 2. This is tied directly into the first one because as a result of these constant changes, and not for the better for the most part, packing or packaging a shipment has reached what I consider an all-time high challenge. So aside from the common sense that would dictate to not put a ceramic plate into a padded envelope and send it on its merry way, you now need quite a bit of know-how and a lot of creativity to mitigate the negative effects of the increased shipping costs as of late. So to give you an example, again, think of the inventory you already have that was pretty sensible to have up until a major change occurred, right? Something that maybe before you had planned on packaging as a 14 by 14 by 14, you now want to bring down to a 12 by 12 by 12, and something that was before longer than 24 inches, you need to try to keep the other two dimensions as small as possible in order to mitigate again the negative impact of size considerations in the cost. So there's a lot of creativity that has to come into effect, at least in my case, in order to make these sales happen, and in order to, even more importantly, to ensure that these packages still reach the customers intact in one piece and without any damage to the goods that were purchased. Now, I did document how I ship something that is quite voluminous and quite fragile and multi-piece. But I did not do a video for that. I did take pictures, and I would like to take you through that a little bit. Maybe you'll find that interesting, and if not, you may be just curious to see how I dealt with shipping this particular ceramic set that was really bulky and heavy enough. But look at all the pieces there, right? So let me show you what I have done. And I am glad to report that it all reached the customer in perfect condition without any trouble whatsoever. Shipping quirk number 3. That is also tied into the other two, because as everything else gets more expensive, so do shipping materials. And unfortunately, that has been a trend as well. And again, for the most part, if you buy retail, that trend has never been for the better. There are a lot of shipping materials that one has to use in order to ensure that a fragile package reaches its destination as it's supposed to. And it all adds up. So that also has to factor into the buying decision. Even when you take the other two elements out of the equation, especially the purchases of items that may not sell for a lot. In many cases, even using the free USPS shipping boxes, the priority boxes, the flat rate boxes, the express shipping boxes, is not even a viable option anymore because of how much those services have increased in price, even with the discount that eBay resellers receive. So I've noticed that in my case, because I used to use USPS free boxes a lot more often than I have in the past 6 months. And I have to think that I cannot be the only reseller in that situation. Shipping quirk number 4. Customer service and communication. Now, this does not become a quirk unless it doesn't get applied. Why do I say that? Well, because of all these other complications and cost increases related to shipping that our customers would have to absorb to one extent or another, right? There's no way for us to protect them completely from these increases in price. In my opinion, customer service has never been more important than it would be today. And in the future, as these negative impacts are predicted to prevail, at least the way I'm looking at things. So habits that we may have had when it comes to customer service and communication should change for the better. Now, I have done this from day one of my reselling career. I have always been big on customer service and communication, but I know that for a lot of people that could have been quite a restrictive practice because of the volume that they may have that would not allow them to be as attentive to every single customer as they should, in all truthfulness. But I'm telling you, this should change if you want to see mitigation to all of these other negatives. Think about it. Think how much more you would get on the customer's good side, how much less likely they would be to have a negative reaction to any incident that concerns your transaction, if they see that you are tending to them and that you care about them enough or as much as to keep them posted along the way from shipping to delivery, including in between, in situations where there may be some abnormal delays or some other cases that would be best addressed through communication. So I've seen that in my case, especially in the feedback section. In my opinion, communicating with the customers will not encourage negative feedback, would encourage positive feedback. A lot of buyers at the other end, even if they may not be 100% happy with the transaction, will be more likely to give you the benefit of a doubt, would be more likely to be more understanding and to at least communicate with you first before attempting to go directly to negative feedback. So in my experience of 4 years, that has been the truth. So I would definitely advise, if you have not done so, to make a few changes in the way you deal with this, because it will only be for the better. It will minimize, maybe not the returns, but it will definitely minimize the negative feedback. It will minimize the trouble that you may find yourself in with some of these customers because of everything else that I mentioned earlier. So this is not a quirk unless you allow it to become one, in my opinion. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And have a marvelous sunshiny day. Bye-bye.